Okay. Wednesday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Wednesday's Child is full of Wednesdays. Hold your horses, folks. There's a lot going on. Before we get into it, I want to know how you're doing, Wink.
Not bad, not bad. It is, 63 going, well, on the cool side today. 63 going up to 65. So that's going on. And it's going to be like that pretty much all week. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that, join us there.
And of course, definitely located either by Providence or Superior Graphic Design are the Contribute Donate buttons.
Yes.
Definitely placed for your consideration in, keeping Resistance Radio beaming 24/7. And thank you for doing that. Here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 62 degrees. We're going to be a bit cooler from yesterday. We went about 90, 92. We'll be around 87. But I predict it'll be 85. That's just we'll see. And oh my gosh, winds are variable right now out of the north at 2 miles per hour. Though we will be seeing because of convection, winds out of the northwest at about 10 to 25 miles per hour.
Right.
So we'll have a few gusts there. And no chance of rain. Usually I like to see that when there's like a 10% chance of rain, because usually that means no chance of rain.
Right.
But it's sort of like seeing the digital readout on the temperature outside of a bank.
Yeah.
Because like on a really hot day, they'll make it hotter. So you come into the bank and you'll cool off.
Oh, yeah.
And then on a cold day, the digital readout will be colder to get you to come to the bank and warm up.
There you go.
So we'll see. Weather from around the world is brought to you literally by weather stations in people's yards, penthouses, patios, what have you, from around the world. London is currently 94 and clear. Paris is 87 and clear. Rome is, and weather warning, I presume thunderstorms. Yes, this is the time of year for them. I got to tell you, I thought I experienced some big time thunder in the Rockies. Nothing like being in Paris. Oh my God. It is scary in Paris. Ooh. And let's see, Rome, I might have said, is 84 and clear, and they have a weather advisory as well. Kiev is 75 and clear. Kabul is 88 and clear. Hong Kong is 75 and clear. Tokyo is 73 and mostly cloudy. Sydney is 53 and partly cloudy. San Francisco is 56, mostly cloudy. And New York is 86 and partly cloudy.
Yeah.
I should mention, I don't have this on the list, but I just got some messages from family in Southern California. San Diego, 127 forecast for today.
Wow.
127 on the beach.
They never get that, I don't think. I mean, it's almost unheard of for San Diego.
Yeah, but don't worry about it.
They're in the 90s a lot, but man.
Don't worry about it. It's all a hoax.
Oh, okay.
So, come on, burn some fossil fuels and get with the program, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you,
exactly.
some hippy-dippy hippie?
Exactly.
127.
Of course it's not the record books. That'd be the record books there.
Of course it's not normal. Okay. Yeah, well. Oh, and that is weather from around the world, brought to you by weather stations from around the world.
Love it.
Before we get into it, I should also mention that the After Show podcast can be had by way of Spreaker shortly after the show. That is the raw data file. And then the perfected daily file, the PDF, will be available a little bit later after that. And by way of Podbean, TuneIn, iTunes, and wherever fantastic, great podcasts can be found.
Exactly.
mixed in with all the not so respected ones too. But
yeah. There's a...
when you're cherry picking,
yeah,
you got to cherry pick.
Yeah,
cherry pickers got to cherry pick. Well. We had a special election, a couple of them.
Yes,
and apparently, I think Democrats are they have lost everything, and we should just quit.
Yeah.
We're 5-0, losing. We're losing. We're 0-5 apparently, according to the guy sitting in the White House.
Lost every one of them. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how that works out because it looks to me like a fairly energized group of people.
I would say so. I would say so.
I look at it as not a defeat, but look what we did in red districts, special elections, people chosen specifically because they were in safe districts.
Yep.
And look how close we got, especially that South Carolina one. The South Carolina 5th, that was only a couple of points, and no one thought at all. Of course, you look at the numbers. Of course, I live in a much smaller state now that I've moved back to Oregon from, growing up in California, and you see these races decided by like less than 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So South Carolina is like, God, you don't realize how small that state is. Then you look at the vote totals, and you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Just a couple of thousand people are deciding this. So very interesting. There are hearings right now with the intelligence community, devastating breaking news stuff, Wink.
Huh?
I got to tell you, I don't know. Well, I don't want to go on too much about the Bernie bros.
Yeah.
But I don't quite understand any of this. I mean, I read these news stories where they take polls of Bernie supporters, and fully half of them would vote for Trump.
Holy, I don't know. I don't quite get that either. But yeah, okay.
Well, because there's libertarians that are, I don't know, not libertarians. I guess libertarians.
Yeah, I think so. I think libertarians.
I don't know, but Bernie's not a libertarian.
No, he's not. No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm just, I'm trying to figure it out. Well, regardless. The Russians, well, just listen to me here now, please. The Russians in the hearings fully attacked the electoral systems in 21 states. They are now talking about the ability to manipulate votes. And I know everybody goes, oh, you're just saying the Russians are the reasons Hillary lost. No, the Russians are probably the reasons why some down ticket races were decided very confusingly. That's what we're talking about. The wholesale manipulation of our electoral system is an attack on our country. It's like flying planes not into our jets, but actually strafing and bombing our countryside. That's what we have to wrap our heads around. And anybody who argues against that, I'm telling you, you're a collaborator. And you know what happened to collaborators in France and elsewhere? No, I'm just saying. History is not on your side. Is that a strong threat? That's no threat. That's showing the arc of history. There's a big difference between Russian dupes and actual people consciously involved in this. Big difference. But in the scheme of things, a very fine line between the two. Because the effects are the same. And so is the affect. Hey, we get to visit with Angela Marx today. Hopefully, we'll place the call. A little busy yesterday, so I was a little late getting confirmation. But she'll be here if she can. That's how it'll work.
There you go. So
maybe I should let folks know about what we will be attending to today. The right wing is correct, Wink, about paid protesters because the paid protesters are paid by the right wing.
Yeah.
Whenever they complain about the Democrats doing something, is because they've been doing it for a long time, and they can't believe that the world would function in any other way than their devious, devilish, evil ways.
Yeah.
If we're doing it, if we're evil, everybody's evil. Both sides. Mitch McConnell is making a cynical gamble that voters won't punish the GOP for Trump care because voters already hate Congress.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll delve into that one. And a crushing blow in Sunday, just this last Sunday's French elections, is the latest blow to Europe's fascist far right.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. Germany and Britain, too, they lost big. For the last half, of course, we're going to visit with Angela Marx, always affectionately known here as Angie in Washington State, for a political and world news roundup. Oh, boy, there's so much news out there. All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar and more, because there is always more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast, and his name is Wink and this guy. Back over here on the West Coast, my name is Justice, and I like to remind folks that we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular, specific, and very peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby? Yeah. 70s TV. Really, who wants to go back to that? There were some gems, though. I always liked Columbo. He was disheveled. And in that disorderliness, there was quite a bit of order.
Yeah.
To me, right. it was emblematic of the universe. It seems like chaos, but there's an underlying thread that puts things all in its place. Oh, boy. I haven't asked you about what's going on in your neck of the woods. Any political things going on? It's all the same old, same old?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet at the moment. But yeah, it'll pick up. We got some young kid, 28, 29, running here for the New York 21 Congressional District against the incumbent Republican. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, next year. That's next year, of course. But that's all. That's all. He is campaigning, though. He's out there on the road already. So that's good. Good news.
Yeah, I want to, I never bought into, even as a kid, where the ethos was don't trust anyone over 30.
Right.
I never bought into that, because that was, to me, that was more of a depersonalized industrial construct that looked at family as a liability rather than a benefit. And it's essentially like, the idea of just throwing away our old people.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I just never bought into that. I didn't think that these ideological divisions were delineated because of age, but because of philosophy. Because I don't know. I mean, what about the angry young men in the 20s who became angry older guys later on? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Is that these alliances span a generational construct. And so I've never liked the idea that just because a person is of a certain age that they shouldn't be running. Oh, you're too old, right? And that just by virtue of the fact that you're young, that you have new ideas. No, your ideas are, who you listen to from the people older than you. So you might have some old ideas and be young, right? But it does humor me when I hear the argument that, we really need young candidates, and Bernie's the one.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to go off on Bernie. He's kind of a foil because he is he's a forceful agent of change, and that's good. But it's sort of like what Gandhi purportedly said about when asked about Christianity. He says, "Oh, you're Christ. I love your Christ, but you're Christians. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can handle the Christians.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Christ, I can. He's good."
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I look at it. And,
Yeah.
oh well, but Armando actually made a salient point on social media today. Maybe we need a Macron on Marche. Yeah, maybe we do. And that would be fine. I wouldn't mind that at all. Not Macron specifically, but somebody as a Macron. Okay, we better get into this. So when we speak with Angie, we have plenty of time. The right wing likes to pay their protesters. Remember when Trump came out on the campaign trail and talked about paid protesters, and it turned out that, like, for his announcement, he actually had to pay people to show up. He went to the booking agents in New York and got all these out of work actors to come, and they got paid $50 to $75 just to stand around.
Right.
And so whenever I hear this thing about paid protesters, I'm like, okay, I bet you I know what that's all about. This is by Callie Holloway out of Alternate. Well, you may have mocked claims about the existence of paid protesters as just another lie from the right. As it turns out, at least on this one issue, they are actually telling the truth. The problem is the right neglected to mention those paid protesters are part of the right-wing apparatus. The story starts last week. Well, for me, it starts way before that. But for this purpose, let's get into this particular narrative. When the right wing decided to aim its collective outrage at a free staging of Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar held in New York City's Central Park. Mike Cernovich, a self-described member of the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, let's be clear, who thinks the U.S. should give immigrants IQ tests, put up a YouTube video in which he offered cash to any protesters willing to disrupt the play for pay. Where is Cernovich getting his money, Wink? Do you know?
Probably the Donald, I guess. I don't know.
No, indirectly in a way.
Yeah.
The Mercers, Wink.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Only been out there. I mean, it's made a big splash. I just love it. I'll give up to 10 people $1,000, Cernovich says in the footage. I need you to get up with either a CNN is ISIS or Bill Clinton's a rapist or the media is terrorism signs. Media is terrorism. I love that. And if you're able to get up and be escorted out by security, then I will give you $1,000. In other words, Cernovich was actively and openly looking to recruit paid protesters. You know how conservatives made up that ridiculous myth about George Soros sending checks to liberals who march and protest? This is the real version of that, only sponsored by Cernovich. Now, once again, I need to remind folks, he is funded by the Mercers. The story actually gets richer, so to speak, continuing here with Callie Holloway. The night after Cernovich's offer, two protesters went to see Julius Caesar in the park. Semi-notorious right-wing media figure Laura Loomer snagged a ticket for a second-row seat that definitely should have gone to someone who actually wanted to see the play. Alt-right provocateur Jack Posobiec, whose greatest hits include Pizzagate and the Seth Rich conspiracy lie, also showed up. The two Trumpites told the New Yorker they hadn't planned to meet, which may or may not be true, and once they spotted each other, they sat apart so as not to arouse suspicion. Oh. Are you here for the Cernovich contest? Posobiec reportedly texted Loomer. She responded, just stay tuned. In the middle of the production, Loomer stormed the stage, briefly halting the action and earning a chorus of boos from an audience that just wanted to see some Shakespeare. There's footage of the whole thing, including Loomer being removed from the stage as she shouts, "CNN is ISIS!" The exact phrase Cernovich suggested. She yelled that CNN is ISIS over and over. As Loomer was escorted out. Now, Prosobiec stood up and began yelling Nazis and Goebbels at the audience until he was removed. He also recorded his outburst, possibly because Cernovich wants proof before he'll pay out. Well, would you? Loomer continued yelling even once she was put outside the venue, and police finally showed up at some point to arrest her. She was then led away, upright and intact, like a human being who does not also happen to be an unarmed black kid. It's important to note that Loomer works for right-wing Canadian media outlet Rebel Media. And until May, so did Prosobiec. Well, we're being invaded by the Canucks. Wink, what the hell?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The blog Canadaland describes it as a Breitbart-esque site filled with contributors who have, quote, called for a new crusade to expel Muslims from the Holy Land. Nice. And outlined what they hate about the Jews. And most recently said that British Muslims are enemy combatants and at least some of whom should be placed into camps. Wow. That's a heartfelt, compassionate group. Loomer was released hours after her arrest. Rebel Media put up a free Laura page on its website, including a link to a fundraising section for her legal defense fund. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. What's curious about this is that they don't use a GoFundMe because GoFundMe won't allow you to raise money for these virulent right-wing causes. So the right wing has their own GoFundMe-like funding platform, and that's called WeSearcher. What is curious about this fundraising online effort, it began 4 hours before Loomer made her announcement that CNN is ISIS and disrupting the play. Curious, isn't it? Okay, well, that's how it works. 4 hours before, wink. Now, she's already raised, how much money has she raised here? Do they tell me? Because it's quite a bit of money. Oh, okay. Over 15, well, she's over $30,000 now. They wanted 25,000. She's over 30,000. They took off the totals, but they continue to come in. You know what the fine is for her infraction, Class B misdemeanor? $120.
Yeah.
I think we're in the wrong. Instead of asking to fund the resistance and keep we should I don't know, have a legal defense fund.
Yeah, there you go. Good idea.
If it seemed incongruous that the new right, whose members have declared themselves the defenders of free speech and conservationists of Western culture, claim to be so outraged by the recent staging of a Shakespeare play, this might explain why. And when the right talks about paid protesters, just assume they personally know from whence they speak. Yes. Out, damn spot. Out. You know what cracks me up about it is that Julius Caesar is an indictment against assassination. This is what happens when, I'm sorry, there's no excuse for not teaching literature in our schools. And there's no excuse for students saying, oh, well, I'm never going to use that. I'm never going to use that if all I'm going to do is push some buttons in a little cube farm. Because you know what happens? Is that you're culturally stunted. And you have no way to grade what life is about. And here is an example of it. Mitch McConnell. I'd say he was, planted by Russia if he hadn't been in cahoots with our own right-wing oligarchs for so many decades. This is out of Raw Story by Travis Geddes. Some GOP senators have complained that McConnell is rushing the revised bill to a vote without sharing its content or debating them in public. And this gamble appears like it will pay off. Congress. What gets me is that, like in my neck of the woods, when people talk about Congress, they're talking about Democrats. And I have to remind them, they don't control anything. The Republicans do. And then they're reduced to the Democrats do it too. Okay. No. When we hear Congress, we mean Republicans. Well, McConnell expects to hold a vote before or after the bill is scored by the CBO, likely next week. And that will put pressure on both centrist and conservative Republicans to back the Obamacare repeal, an issue Republicans have campaigned on since the law was passed. I love it. We promised to shoot someone in the middle of Times Square just to watch him die. We got to fulfill our campaign promise, wink.
Exactly.
I'm serious. Trump did. He promised that he could shoot someone on Times Square and people would still love him.
Oh, yeah.
So they got to fulfill. They have to fulfill that campaign promise. They promised it.
Yeah, go shoot
we promised to not only take candy away from the baby, but to break the baby's neck too. You don't want us to not to just stand by, and we made a promise. And I got to tell you, the people voting for him, you only took the candy out of the baby's hand. You promised us you'd break that baby's neck. Break its neck. Break its neck.
Yep.
And we're supposed to peel off those votes. We're supposed to get those voters to come on our side, wink.
Right.
There is no chance. And would we ever want them? Yeah, I think we need to build our own. We don't need to try to take from them. Okay, well, we'll see how successful that may turn out. Though you never know. McConnell has the pulse on the evil heartbeat of his base. And he knows, he being a turtle, he's close to being a lizard, wink.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So he knows what tickles the lizard brain. Okay, let's see here. Oh, all right. So France has been in, they have various rounds of elections through what they call the election season. And this is by Adrian Masha Varkiani. How to Think Progress. Emmanuel Macron's party won a large parliamentary majority in the French elections on Sunday, an expected yet historic victory for a party created just 1 year ago. But the election results aren't just important for France, they also underscore the recent losses of far-right parties across Europe. En Marche, also known as La République En Marche, or LREM, Lorem, or in English, Republic on the Move, received 308 of the 577 total seats in France's National Assembly, with 43% of the vote. Along with its centrist Modem ally, En Marche will control a commanding 350 seats in the French Parliament's lower house. This Sunday, you gave a clear majority to the President of the Republic to the government, said French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe. It will have a mission to act for France. By their vote, the French, in their great majority, preferred hope to anger, confidence to withdrawal. I should also note that they took an active participatory effort in keeping Russian hacking and manipulation at a minimum, if not nipped in the complete bud.
Right.
So it's interesting how this idea of hope and confidence is expressed in France, and we that seems to be something sorely lacking here, almost as if the brainwashing is working.
Well, you think if they could do it in France, we could do it here in the U.S. of A., but apparently not, or there is other motives involved. Yeah.
Well, there was I read an important article about a woman whose family taught them how to recognize the collaborators in their midst. And how was that knowledge acquired? By being Jews during World War II in Europe, France in particular. And how members of her own Jewish family became collaborators. And the resistance fighters within that family, knowing that their uncle was a collaborator. And how to recognize what they do and how they do it. And then, most importantly, not afraid to get rid of that collaborator. And, that being World War II, it was, shall we say, a bit extreme. We're in a war right now. We got to understand that. Now, I'm not saying, take collaborators out in the woods. That's not how we do it here. Reputation means everything, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. Hey, we better get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's community calendar. Forrester Bob is on vacation, so we have Angry Marmot running the diary today, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and, while we're doing that, we'll connect with Angie in Washington State and then have our conversation with her. You're listening to The After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Good news, people. At last, congressional Democrats have gotten a clue, grown some spine, and are beginning to act like Democrats. In particular, a majority of Dems in the U.S. House are responding to the rising public demand that decent health care be treated as a right for everyone, rather than being rationed by profiteering insurance conglomerates. Nearly 6 of 10 in the House have now signed on to Representative John Conyers' Medicare for All bill, which is being carried in the Senate by Bernie Sanders. So, hallelujah, progress. Yes, but there are many speed bumps to overcome before the Democratic Party gets onto the moral high road of politics. Representative Nancy Pelosi, for one. When the leader of House Democrats was asked if the party should make health care for all a major issue in Congress and in the 2018 elections, she replied with a flat no. Basically, Pelosi says the American people aren't ready for it, by which she really means that the narrow slice of the public that inhabits her world, health industry executives, lobbyists, and campaign donors, aren't ready. Meanwhile, a good 60% of regular Americans are damn sure ready, telling pollsters that our government has a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets the care they need. Let's be blunt. When it comes to the fiery leadership that America's grassroots people want and need, the Democratic Party establishment is weaker than Canadian hot sauce. When you've got 60% of your party's rank-and-file congressional members ready to go, and 60% of the public is also ready to go, it's time to go. The National Party's leadership must get going on health care for all, or the leadership itself must go. This is Jim Hightower saying, to help push both the party and the health care for all issue forward, go to nationalnursesunited.org.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the after show of Week in Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast, because I'm a roguish personality.
Yeah.
And Week is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast, because he has an upstate New York 21 state of mind.
Yes.
And Angie in Washington State is in Washington State because, she's a Washington State kind of gal. And our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the after show, to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond.
Yes.
Telling you, you don't need actual fiber filaments. We can do it filaments of light.
Yeah.
And we'll have Ethernet out there even. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar is specially facilitated today by Angry Marmot, as Forster Bob goes on vacation, and the lead-in is about album art. See, we're so old, we remember when they had these things called vinyl discs.
Yeah.
And you would put like a diamond-tipped stylus. It was like a point, like a needle.
Yep.
And it would scrape around this disc, and there would be music on it. And this disc came in a cardboard container, and they would put this really neat art on it.
Oh, yeah. Big time art.
Not like today where you get, if you're lucky,
and lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even, and if you do get album art on CD, can you read it? You need one of those like Cracker Jack's magnifying glasses.
Yeah.
To come with it.
Yep.
Then you might be able to enjoy it. Well, my favorite album art, actually, there's so many, but I was really intrigued first by the music, but then when Jethro Tull really started putting out their album art, I would spend hours going over Thick as a Brick, which was a fake newspaper, and it was really intriguing. And I'd be engaged for hours eating a big bowl of Wheaties in the morning while reading Thick as a Brick album art.
Yeah.
How about Alan Parsons Pyramid?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also made the bad mistake of buying Sticky Fingers, with the zipper on it.
Yeah.
And then stacking albums on top of it so that your Sticky Fingers album couldn't be played because the zipper destroyed the album. So yeah, be careful with that.
Hart put out a really beautiful album too. I can't remember which one it was. It actually has that big glowing red heart on it, though.
All right.
Yes,
yeah, there's a lot of.
My ex-husband's got one on the wall still.
There you go.
But he had one. I met him when he was 18.
Pretty good songwriting right there. No question about it. Yep.
No kidding. Okay, so Wisconsin Cossacks have been organizing their group. If you'd like to join Wisconsin Co's, Cosmail, Chris the Colladem. And the Epic Glacier National Park meetup number 3, June 30th through July 2nd. That's coming up. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa have been organizing that. Get a hold of them if you'd like to take part. The Daily Co's Cheers and Jeers annual dinner at Netroots Nation, occurring, of course, in Atlanta, Georgia, in the most humid part of the year, by the way. But that's how it works. You'll be cooling off Wednesday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m. at the White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, located at 270 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP a seat. She normally states that is within walking distance of the convention center. And we always remind folks, walking distance for Navajo is different than for like normal human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Walking distance for her is walking distance. Walking distance for her is more like a short cab ride for the rest of us.
Didn't she spend some time living in New York?
Yeah.
Where there are no cars for normal people, just feet and subways?
Yeah.
No, I'm just talking about, I'm at the state in life I'm at that stage of life now where there is no thing as walking. It's called hobbling slowly.
Yes, 2 blocks is a marathon. I know. I feel your pain.
Give me a cab for those 2 blocks,
When did we become the generation? Yeah. When did we become the generation of people with canes? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. What happened?
I have one. I have a Barbie pink one.
There you
I
go.
want levitating powers. That's what I want. All right.
Oh, my
Yes,
goodness.
where are those flying cars and backpacks we were promised?
Exactly.
And finishing up here, Deco's Asheville are having their August meetup at Mount Mitchell State Park, and that will be occurring Saturday, August 12th. And Mount Mitchell State Park is located at 2388 State Highway 128, Burnsville, North Carolina. Send Randolph a Cosmail to attend. And that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar for the summer solstice of 2017.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long day today, Wink. A long day.
Love it. Bring it on.
It's my youngest daughter's birthday today. Happy birthday, Sarah.
I always love it when there's birthdays that are on these kinds of demarcations. Yeah. Different than Christmas. I'd much rather have it in the winter or spring solstice, or summer solstice. That's great.
She's first day of summer. She's definitely a summer kind of girl. Her and her husband, they are big disc golf aficionados. They have been doing that sport for about 5 or 6 years now, and she was ranked, I think, like 20th on the national leaderboard last year. Yay, Sarah!
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all.
I used to love Frisbee. That was one of my favorite. We used to, I was with a couple of guys and we did some athletic performances at the Rose Bowl during a halftime of a UCLA football game. And so that's different than disc golf. I mean, we were doing cartwheels and flips and all that stuff and throwing this disc about 80 yards to each other and then doing these athletic movements or whatnot. It was quite fun. It seemed like a very, Zen game to me.
Well, that's young people celebrating the vim and vigor of a youthful body.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they do not realize how good they have it.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to throw a frisbee now when you're kind of like moving from one butt cheek to the other rather than like with your feet. You know? Like, here, I'll sit down here. Let's see if I can toss this thing. Oh yeah, it's gone really good.
Well, so do you live in the path of the totality of the eclipse that's coming?
No, I'm actually south of that, but my grandkids, ex-wife, and my son and other family members do live in that path. And so I don't need to book a hotel room that won't be existent because everybody's gouging everybody. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if my own family members said, "Oh, if you're going to stay here, it's going to be $500 for the day." So.
Well, you must be just south because I'm just outside the 90% because I'm just over the Oregon border here in Washington State.
No, I mean we're within it. But we're the 100 or 90% totality. You know, the big dark band.
Yeah.
It goes through Salem and that area. So
yeah.
So Corvallis, Salem area. So I'm down.
You're
here.
just over the mountains in over towards
right
the Madras area, aren't you?
I'm a half hour from the border. So 40 minutes. Of California, I mean. So, but no, we'll be getting some of the eclipse, but where, the real money makers for the eclipse. I've been just reading these horror stories about everybody's gouging, for people coming for the eclipse. It just seems like. Well,
Oregon's dependent on tourist trade to start with. I mean, they get a lot of money out of tourism.
Right.
People going from California to Canada or northern Washington and back again. So.
Yeah,
I could see how that'd be important. I was when I was in high school, there was a total eclipse, and I watched it. I was standing on the west side of the high school and watched it come at us from the west. And it was the thing that I recall the most about it was how quiet and still everything got. Right. You couldn't hear any airplanes. You couldn't hear any cars. People everywhere had just stopped to watch it happening, and all the little critters had just gone silent for a moment. I mean, it was the most quiet, still moment in daytime that I had ever experienced.
Now, I experienced it. I can't remember if it was an actual total eclipse, but there was an eclipse when I lived in Berkeley. And that same dynamic occurred. Everything got really quiet. And when you're in an urban area where there's always a sound of buses and, just sound.
Yeah, it's striking.
It was strangely quiet. I mean, it happened, I guess, even, when the bus was further on down its route, so I didn't even hear the bus. But, yeah, birds stopped chirping, dogs stopped barking.
The only other time in life I can remember the same kind of feeling was the 5 to 6 days after 9/11 happened, when the planes were all grounded.
Right.
And people were in their houses watching their TVs and not going to school or going to work, some of them, and everything was just quiet.
You know what's really weird? I spent probably 3 weeks watching "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" over and over and over. I don't know why. It was more about just this music that seemed to resonate about a kind of American spirit that maybe we lost, or a kind of American history that we needed to remember. And I don't know, it was consoling to me in some ways. And then it's true, it was considerably after the planes started flying again, but I went to New York, and it was different. It's almost hard to conjure up the feeling of patriotism that happened, even among some of us that would normally be questioning a kind of, I don't want to say martial thing, but
it's human nature. Nothing unites a band of people who've been arguing amongst themselves for ages like an enemy they can all fight against together.
One of the local TV stations in the Bay Area was driving around Berkeley, and I had put the flag up in front of my house, and they want to know why. In liberal Berkeley, why would you be flying the flag? And, I just made mention of the fact that, there was, 3,500 Americans that were, kind of killed that day, and it just seems appropriate. Then I took it down when we invaded Iraq. So...
Yeah, I still can't believe that happened. I don't know. It's like we're living in an alternative reality sometimes. I swear, I wake up on occasion and I think, did Trump really get elected, or was that a nightmare?
Right.
And the same thing happened. I had the same feeling of unreality when Bush got appointed president, and then when 9/11 happened, and he just kind of squandered the goodwill of the world by invading Iraq. I don't understand the mindset of the entire right ideological portion of our population. Now, we got 2 presidents here, Bush and Trump, within the same quarter century, who are completely mangling the ultimate power and authority of the office of the presidency. For what purpose, I do not understand.
I call it opportunism. There's a possibility of making money, getting power, both, a little bit more than that. And it's, Naomi Klein's shock doctrine, disaster capitalism. They were caught on tape, saying they, well, not necessarily, Bush himself, but remember, what was it? Not CPAC, but Progress for a New PNAC, Progress for a New American Century, Bill Kristol's group, who said that what we need is a Pearl Harbor, an attack on our homeland. They didn't call it homeland then. In which then we could use that to sort of, you would be able to energize people to do things they wouldn't normally do, right?
Yeah, if you looked at the website for the PNAC back in the day and looked at all the list of the founding members and the current members as of maybe 2000 to 2001, they're all in Bush's administration. A bunch of them had been in Reagan's administration. Bush took the people as his Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State and a whole bunch of people in his administration, advisors, straight out of Reagan's administration. It's Reagan liked war, Bush liked war.
Rummy, one of them, Rumsfeld. from back in Nixon's days, I think. But I mean, he goes back a long way too. So
I was going to say, a lot of the people in Reagan administration were brought in from the Nixon administration.
Yeah, so I mean, it goes.
So
back.
it kind of goes from there.
Yeah, it's a connection.
Yeah, we used to joke macabrely that Vietnam was really just a showcase for our weapons, right? Because we're international arms dealers. And that's what I thought Iraq was, too. We're just showcasing weapons in the Middle East so we can get these oil-rich countries to buy our stuff.
Yeah,
and they did.
Our country sold weapons after World War II quite a bit, but nothing on the scale of what we started selling to them after Reagan became president.
Right.
Carter didn't sell weapons to anybody, as far as I know, except to Israel.
Right. But
Reagan was shipping weapons everywhere. They traded those hostages for what kind of missiles? I've forgotten which kind of missiles they sent them.
I think they were Stingers.
They were prohibited. They weren't allowed to sell them to them, and they sold them to them. So they could use the money to give the CIA money, just pay for the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. The things done in our name by our government agencies. It just still astonishes me. I know that it makes me completely naive to think that way, but
it sounds tinfoil hat, but it's the deep state that's kind of running the show. That's a lot of it.
I wouldn't go that far. Please do not use the term deep state here. That is a Russian, and actually it's a Turkish construct. Can we please? All right.
I think that there's a little tiny bit of truth in that idea, in that there are a whole cadre of people who are professional government employees. They were educated, and they have spent decades of experience working in federal and state governments, and they are the people that keep the government running, regardless of who gets elected to those few seats. In Congress, there's 535 people. In state houses, there are about 300 or so in each state house. But there are tens of hundreds of thousands of people who are professional government employees. If you think that there is a deep state, the only thing that there is a bunch of people who have spent their life's work making sure the government keeps working no matter what.
Yeah, the deep state.
I don't think there's some deep hidden agenda of people who used to be in government and want back in, who have all the secret powers somewhere. I think that that's a crazy thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, once again, the term deep state has a specific meaning, and we need to keep that in mind. So that doesn't necessarily exist. Yeah, we have people in our government who, I don't know, want to keep the government happening. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing.
Well,
but regardless, that's
not what the Republicans are talking about. They're talking about people who are secret Kabbalists, workers behind the scenes who are doing things that you would never think that they could be doing to our government, even though they're not part of our government anymore. Or they are, but they have hidden agendas or whatever.
Whenever they say that is because it's something that they've done or are already doing. And when they're talking about secret governments, they're talking about like what they did with Ollie North. They're talking about, as for an example.
Exactly, yeah.
So
it's Ollie North stuff.
The guy who finagled that deal for hostages for weapons, and then the Nicaraguan guns and armaments they got for it. That was Ollie North. He was the mastermind behind that.
In the couple of minutes that we have left before we came back on air, we were talking about Georgia 6 and Ossoff's voluminous amount of money. I mean, we could talk about how much the Republicans spent, and we could say they spent $27 million to keep the status quo. And you made a salient point that the amount of money that Ossoff received could have funded 4 or 5 other races. But didn't Ossoff raise that money himself?
Races in states that could have won with that money.
But I heard Ossoff was like a money maker. So I mean, that he was able to raise funds mostly from. Well, I know that Coase directed efforts for folks to put money into that account. But
I'll tell you, you know very well what's going on here is that the the foundation of the Democratic Party at the national level. They see these special elections as a way, if we can start winning them, to gin up excitement in the Democratic base and the independents who lean Democratic, to show them that indeed there is a rising tide of people coming out to vote, showing that the election next year, that there's a rising tide of blue coming to swamp those Republicans away. They're trying to build energy and excitement this year to push that idea over into next year to flip the Congress. That's what's going on, but make no mistake about it. And that's not a bad idea, except that every one of these special elections is going on in a place where it's R10 or worse.
They put all their eggs in one basket.
Why didn't they push money into that North Carolina election? Look at that. That race didn't get any time, any notice, any money, and they came within 2 point something percent of winning. Ossoff was almost 5% off. And people sent him tens. He got like $24 million or something. A huge amount of money. Yep. So
he was the pretty boy, or the party boy, whatever.
There's good stuff in that idea of theirs. These special elections that are going on, but on the other hand, they have got to use that money that's available wisely. They should have pushed Ossoff's race, but why didn't they push the other race in North Carolina just as much? They're both Montana. Special elections. They're both happening at the same time. They could have spread that money, and one of those seats might have been won.
Yep. Right.
Who are the geniuses running strategy for our party at the national level? I would like to talk to them.
Well, I didn't hold out any hope that we would win in any of these, and I still don't have any hope that we would win any of these special elections, because the special elections are occurring because cabinet members were pegged to, or pegged from Republican safe districts. So any inroad that we might be able to make. Now, of course, I understand. I mean, I suppose if Ossoff was a good Democrat, the remainders of those monies might be dispersed among other races. I don't know how that would work or the propriety of it. But
he might have.
But it's hard for me to blame Ossoff because people, I don't know,
sent him money.
Spontaneously decided, well, this is, our hope guy. And, I mean, that's kind of human nature in a way, too. You find a hero and then...
Yes, but the bulk of the money raised comes in response to emails sent to people that have already been donors to campaigns prior.
True.
Right? That's how they fundraise these days. Everyone should be well aware of that. You open your email box, if you've ever donated to a Democratic candidate ever, when you open your email box every day after that donation, it will be a swamp full of asks for money for other campaigns. That's the way these fundraising arms and political campaigns work, because that's what gets money. I wish that it was better. I mean, Bernie Sanders didn't do that. He raised a fortune, but he did it because his message reached people and they responded to his message, which was, the rich people have enough and I'm tired of it and let's do something about that. He had a sweet, simple message, and that's why people replied to it so extraordinarily in 2016. Yeah.
Right. My mom is complaining because she gets 3 Reader's Digests, and I keep telling her, well, stop replying that you like Reader's Digest. They're going to keep sending you this stuff. She's going to get a 4th Reader's Digest because they go, oh, would you like to get a Reader's Digest? Yeah, they keep sending it to her. It's like, oh, my God, don't you understand what's going on? Well, Angie, it's been great. We'll just have to pick this up next week. And there's just so much to pack in that it's good to remember how we got here. And this has been a decades-long effort to, I guess, deconstruct the administrative state.
I would just urge people to look around their county that they live in. There are people running for office in your city and county government this year. You all have a U.S. House representative running in your district next year. Go to your local Democratic Party county meeting, find out who those people are, and volunteer 2 hours a month to a candidate of your choice. 2 hours. You don't have to open your pocketbook to people. Give them 2 hours of your time. Go help their little campaign office or knock on doors or make phone calls or whatever it is you feel comfortable doing. But if you really want to change politics in America, it starts in your own backyard.
Yep.
Thank you for that. And I would suggest also, suggest that folks who have had experience volunteer, because there's a lot of 20-year-olds that don't have an institutional memory about how things work, and it's almost like reinventing the wheel in each of these new elections or new people running for office.
Absolutely.
So we need to have some institutional memory there so that we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. Well, thank you, Angie. We'll pick this up next week.
You guys have a great week. See you Wednesday.
All right, folks, we got a couple of minutes before Hartman comes up at 6 minutes after the hour-ish, and we'll listen to Paul Murphy's Soul Call in the interim. And this being Wednesday, tune in tonight for Jibber Your Jabber with Wink. Begins at 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. 2-hour opportunity for live call-in radio, so do that.
Heck yeah.
In fact, continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Of course, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I'll see you on the other side.
All right, we're out.